Crypt of the Necrodancer is a game developed by Brace Yourself Games, where rhythm meets roguelike in a dungeon crawling adventure like no other. Today we'll be diving into the depths of this innovative game to explore why it's so unique among its rhythm game siblings. Crypt of the Necrodancer isn't a typical dungeon crawler. Instead of moving freely, players must navigate each level to the beat of the music. The player can only move on each beat, or they can decide not to move at all, but this will break their combo. One of the most distinctive features is its innovative use of diegetic music. Unlike traditional rhythm games where the music is merely a backdrop, the soundtrack in Crypt serves a dual purpose. It drives the gameplay forward while also being an integral part of the game world itself. Diegetic music refers to music that exists within a fictional universe of the game. In Crypt, every beat, every melody, and every rhythm is not just a gameplay mechanic, but also serves part of the game's narrative and environment. The entire world pulsates to the rhythm of the music, and the players must synchronize their movements to the beat in order to progress. Why is this? Cadence, the protagonist, goes to the Crypt of the Necrodancer against the wishes of her uncle Eli in order to search for her father. Dorian, her father, went to the Crypt 2 years prior to the events in the game to find the golden loot. When Cadence arrives at the Crypt, she begins digging for an entrance when suddenly the ground beneath her splits open. She falls into the Crypt and strikes her head on a rock as she lands. Fatally wounded, Cadence lies motionless on the floor in the Crypt, until the Necrodancer appears and steals her heart, cursing it to forever beat to his music. The Necrodancer takes Cadence's heart and heads to his lair deeper in the Crypt. Crypt's gameplay mechanics directly reflect Cadence's predicament. Just as her heart beats to the rhythm of the Necrodancer's music, players must synchronize their movements to the beat of the game's soundtrack. This creates a compelling connection between the player's actions and the narrative. The original composer, Danny Baranowski, more commonly referred to as DB, is an independent composer, famously known for his work on Edmund Macmillan's The Binding of Isaac and Super Meat Boy. Included with the game, however, comes 2 alternate soundtracks that were not written by DB. An EDM cover by A_Rival, which plays for Melody, Cadence's mother, and a metal cover by Family Jewels 7X, which plays for Aria, Cadence's grandmother. 2 additional soundtracks were added a year after the game's release, a MIDI version by Jake Vert Kaufman, and an 80s new wave synth cover by Girlfriend Records. 2 other covers, the self-titled Overclock remix is a second EDM cover, and the cleverly named Crypt of the Necrodancer is a chiptune cover by Chipzel. The unique thing about these covers is that despite them all being completely compositionally different, they share the exact same BPM and duration. The following audio clips are snippets of 1-2 Cryptique from all 6 composers. The only difference in the composition between the covers is in the boss themes. On a typical stage, if the player stays on the stage until the track ends, a trapdoor opens beneath them and they fall into the next stage. On the boss level, the theme loops indefinitely, so the difference in the covers don't matter. Stage 1-2, the stage for the track we just listened to, has a default BPM, or beats per minute, of 130, which is a very energetic and exciting tempo. Additionally, the player can walk over traps to temporarily raise or lower the BPM by 12.5% for 21 beats. By intentionally lowering the BPM, the player can give themselves more time to react before making their next input. On the other hand, some challenging characters, such as Bolt, double the tempo, giving the player far less time to react. As the game progresses, the song speed gets higher, up to a maximum of 175 beats per minute before any modifiers. To compensate for the lack of time between moves, all of the enemies have predictable movement patterns. For example, the skeleton raises his arms before he's about to move, and the blue slimes only ever move up and down every 2 beats. An experienced player will know exactly where an enemy is going to move next. I find that this is what differentiates itself so heavily from standard rhythm games. While most rhythm games feel like vessels for the players to play music, Crypt's core is in the movement on the beat, according to James Landino, one of the game's developers. The entire gameplay is based around it, and rather than it being lazily strung together, each enemy and each character have unique interactions with the music. Despite each song having its own genre-specific cover, it didn't stop DB from experimenting with multiple different genres during his composition of the tracks. In an interview, DB stated,
"Part of the challenge Necrodancer was trying to learn about all these different genres of dance music and try to just at least touch on them."
A few examples of this include the stage we listened to a moment ago, 1-2, which utilizes triplet meter. Here it is again. Stage 3-3, which has a metal theme. Another is the Deep Blues boss theme, which obviously takes some inspiration from blues, but also seems to take some inspiration from frequency modulation. Here it is. This piece reminded me a lot of the music that was in Lagrange Point. And stage 4-1, which is an electric themed stage which utilizes electronic music. With respect to each song, the player's inputs don't matter much aside from matching the beat. This allows the player to import custom songs for each level, which adds a whole extra layer of fun. In conclusion, Crypt of the Necrodancer stands as a remarkable fusion of rhythm and roguelike gameplay, with music to match it. The unique diegetic music drives gameplay forward while also immersing players within the game's world. The diverse array of covers offers players a massive soundtrack arsenal, regardless of their musical preference. Crypt of the Necrodancer's success lies in its meticulous attention to detail, including the predictably patterned enemies, the incorporation of various dance genres, and the consistency among the covers. Its emphasis on movement synchronized from the beat sets it apart from traditional rhythm games, providing an engaging experience for players. Ultimately, Crypt of the Necrodancer shows the potential of video game music transcending the role of background accompaniment to become an integral part of the gameplay and storytelling experience. As players move through the Crypt's rhythmic labyrinth, they not only embark on a musical journey, but also immerse themselves in a narrative written with each beat.